Can we get a round of applause for Sheeta for this wonderful presentation? And, yeah, 3 days, 3 days. The cable that comes in the box is a Lightning to USB cable. So if anybody was curious about that, that's what you got. Same cable you use to charge your phone with, which is a wonderful thing. If you have one of the iPhone stands that they sell at the Apple Store, you can just plug the AirPod case right on top of that, and that will do the charging too if you're using it as a charging stand. And it looks sort of cool sitting on top of it. All right, so moving on with my side of the world, we're going to talk about High Sierra. It's not going to be a show all the features, but we're going to discuss them. Because I think some of these features are going to be enough to make a meeting out of, particularly the Photos app with the new editing tools that are inside of it. So we are going to start with Dave's top 9 favorite features. And if you ask why Dave's top 9, because David Letterman owns a top 10 list and I'm not getting in trouble. All right. So, yes. Yes. That is part of the presentation. Thank you for bringing that up. We will be talking about machines that should probably be put to pasture as well. So, didn't have to do a thing. So, MacOS High Sierra, i.e. 10.13. Apple is attempting to drop the new numeric system that's associated with the software upgrades now. But if you look and see when there's a new update, it says 10.13.2. So they're not quite done with numbers, but they are trying to get away from that. Again, should you have questions while we're going on here, send a text to MacGroup313@iCloud.com. I will be able to have that handy right here, and I will try and look at it and answer your questions while doing the presentation. I do not juggle plates, but sometimes I can do this. All right. Let's start with reasons to not install High Sierra. Reason 1, you don't have a backup. Why don't you have a backup? We tell you that all the time. You should have a backup. Hard drives are extremely cheap. 2, you're worried about High Sierra problems because every time a new OS comes out, there are bound to be a few bugs, glitches that can happen. But so far, for most people, this has been a pretty seamless upgrade. So there's not a whole lot of things to worry about with this one, unless you're having problems with your current operating system. 3, your Mac is really old. So if you have to ask who was the president when you bought your computer, that might be a question you should consider maybe a bigger upgrade than just the software. And then most importantly, you are in the middle of an important project. Never, 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 ever upgrade an operating system if you are working on something important. If it is something that you have to have done in the next few days or weeks, don't do it. Just wait. Finish your project, then do it. It definitely can wait till you're done. Okay. Reasons for installing High Sierra. You are already running Sierra. So everyone here is probably familiar with, we had leopard, we had snow leopard. We had lion, we had mountain lion. We had mavericks, we had Yosemite. We had El Capitan, we had Sierra, now we have High Sierra. So it seems every other one seems to increase productivity with the previous operating system. And I believe that High Sierra does that for anybody that is currently running Sierra. Another thing is Safari upgrades. Safari has gotten bloated over the years and running very slow. A better Safari? Yeah, please, anytime, I'm ready. You want or / need better security. There are a ton of security features that are built into High Sierra. The Apple file system, which really takes advantage of SSD drives. You've been running this system on your iPhone or your iPad for the last 2 years. This file partition has been that way, and it does make things quite zippy. You already have iOS 11 on your iPhone or your iPad. Some of the features, better syncing, handoff, connection issues. It does a lot. High Sierra fixed some odd issues and bugs that were in Sierra. So then, that's a good feature, wouldn't you think? Everybody wants a better battery life. And that's one of the bugs that it seems to have improved for a lot of people. There are new features in the Notes program. The ability to put a table inside of Notes is sort of a cool idea. It's not a spreadsheet, but it's sort of cool. If you are an emoji person, there's new emojis there's like a ton of them just in High Sierra. New features in Photos, which will be part of a future presentation. There's external GPU and then VR support. People running older / underpowered video cards in their system, external GPUs do offer a good support, in particular for doing the virtual reality type of software programs, because Tim Cook says AR is the future, so augmented reality or virtual reality is coming. And then there's just plenty of other macOS High Sierra features that are built in as well. So, to Calvin's question, will my Mac run macOS High Sierra? It's a fantastic question. I am going to go over hardware upgrade solutions at the end of this presentation. So, stick with me, please. So, this picture doesn't do it justice when you see it on the screen on your computer, especially if you have a Retina screen, because this is very similar to enjoying the fall colors of Michigan when you take a little drive in the fall to enjoy them. So, some of the basic requirements for installing High Sierra. If you are running 10.8 or higher, you're probably good to go. If you are running 10.6 or 10.7, you would need to upgrade to 10.11 first, and Apple actually has a link because 10.11 is not in the App Store anymore, but they actually have a link on their support page that will get you the ability to download 10.11 so you can then upgrade from 10.6 to there, because you'll need to get to 10.11 before you can jump up to High Sierra. If you are on 10.8, it's a one-step process. 2 gigabytes of memory. How many people here are running 2 gigabytes of memory on their computer currently?
2 gigabytes.
Thank you. How many people are running 4 gigabytes of memory on their computer? Okay. I'm assuming everybody else is more than 4 gigs of memory on their computer? Okay. Because if you are going to run High Sierra, while Apple says 2 gigs is the minimum requirement, that's great. because the operating system uses about 1.5 gigs to 1.75 gigs. So out of 2 gigs of memory, if you can open mail and not have the beach ball come at you, you are quite fortunate. It is a very memory intensive program. For those that might be saying, well, but I've got a 500 gig hard drive. Your hard drive is not your memory, that is your storage. Memory is what allows you to run all the different programs at the same time, as well as boot up into an operating system. You need 15 gigs of space on your hard drive. If you don't have at least 15 gigs of open space on your hard drive, you need to back up your stuff, delete a few things so you do have the room. Apple ID is required for some features. When you upgrade to High Sierra, there is a new version of the iWork software that will be made available to you. And that's where you need your Apple ID so you can download those newer versions that are designed to work. I'm tempted to use the word flawlessly with High Sierra, but I'm not going to. But that's the general thought behind it. And talking about your Apple ID, if you do this upgrade, it would be really good if you knew what your Apple ID was and what your password is before going into this. Because I have unfortunately helped a number of people that, while trying to download it and they couldn't figure out what their password was, they ended up blocking their Apple ID out from trying too many times. And trying too many times is 10 times. And that will lock your account out, and then you have to reset your password. So make sure you know what it is first before you get into it. You also need a robust internet connection. I would assume that most people here have a fairly decent internet connection. I can't think of anybody in this area that is running dial-up. I can't think of anybody in this area that is probably, or I can't think of anybody in this room that is probably running internet slower than at least 6 megabits per second. There are some people that are running possibly slower systems because, like my parents, they signed up for the senior plan with AT&T. So at their house, it is unbearably slow. Most people are much higher than that. Download for this software is going to take at least an hour on a good connection. I have had people come into our store from the Thumb area and they told me, oh, it said it was going to take days because their internet connection where they live out in the middle of nowhere is extremely horrible. They come in the store and it downloads in an hour. They're quite happy. So definitely make sure you've got a good connection, or go somewhere where there is a good connection. Hardware requirements. These hardware requirements are from Apple's website. Apple says High Sierra should run on any of these computers. So if you have a white MacBook from 2009 or 2010, supposedly High Sierra will run great on it. Every one of those computers had 2 gigs of RAM, unless somebody loaded it up to begin with. MacBook Pros, 13, 15, and 17-inch models from 2010 and newer will be able to run High Sierra. MacBook Airs, late 2010 or newer. If you have a MacBook Air from 2010 that has 2 gigs of RAM, just don't. Please, just don't. Mac Minis, 2010 and newer. The 2010 Mac Mini was the last one with an optical disk drive in it still. I have High Sierra running on one of mine. I also bumped it up to 8 gigs of RAM. It runs okay, but that's because it's still a traditional drive, mechanical spinning disk. I'm probably going to slap a solid state in it, and because from what I've read, they run really well with solid state drives. iMacs, 2009 or newer. Again, this is what Apple says, can run it, maybe not the best suggestion of, yeah, you should put it on this older machine. And then Mac Pros from 2010 and newer. Yes?
I have a MacBook Pro of mid-2009 with a solid state drive.
Okay.
And I'm currently running, I'll check it then.
Right.
No problem.
Okay.
Is my machine still too old?
Yes.
So
Because the MacBook Pro model is the 2010 and newer. You are a mid-9, so your machine is not supported. However, there have been people that have found ways around it to try and get it to run on the older machine. The fact that you have the solid state drive might be in your benefit versus a traditional drive.
Chances are it's a video card.
Right, and I've read that there are people that have found hacks to work around that, but I think your performance would probably be crippling because of the video card issue.
So I should stick with stop with El Capitan.
My opinion would be yes. For that model, yeah. I mean, you could go to Sierra if you really wanted to, but I would say High Sierra is not really a realistic possibility. Okay? All right. My personal recommendation, if you are upgrading any of these machines to run High Sierra, minimum 4 gigs of memory. The more RAM you have in your computer, the better all the way around. My best configuration suggestion would be minimum 8 gigs of RAM and a solid state drive. There are plenty of options for solid state drives out there. A number of members here can probably recommend a number of the Samsung drives or the Crucial drives. I particularly like the MX series. There are other drives makers that produce solid state drives. I would definitely take the time to look to see how the speeds are on those drives before upgrading those to a solid state drive. SanDisk is a company that's been making flash memory for years for cameras and other things. The SanDisk solid state drives I've not had good experience with inside of computers. They want to run fast, but they just don't, in my experience. So if you have one that is, congratulations. If you don't, and you're thinking about it, it's worth spending the extra money on either the Samsung Evo series or the Crucial MX series for a solid state drive for your Mac. Okay, these are not in any particular order. I'm just starting with number 9. So number 9, Wi-Fi or battery issues. A number of people have found that moving up to High Sierra has solved this for them. People having Wi-Fi connection issues or poor battery life or other little small but annoying issues. You know, a battery issue is not going to be somebody running an iMac or a Mac Mini or a Mac Pro. Just not. But if you're on a laptop, whether it's a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air or now even the new MacBook, High Sierra has suddenly breathed life back into some of those batteries that may have been not lasting up to their potential. It's also done the same thing for Wi-Fi connections, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's a plus rather than a negative. I recommend people that are possibly having issues with their current operating system to, instead of just upgrading, to do a fresh install of the operating system. I think most people here would realize that a fresh install is always a benefit to making sure you're running a stable system rather than putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound if your other one's struggling.
How would you perform a clean install under these conditions?
So a clean install, obviously, you start with a backup. Make sure you have the backup of your choice that you prefer to use. I personally like Time Machine. I think it is great. Super Duper Carbon Copy Cloner, as well as some of the other choices for making backups, that's good too. A fresh install would mean that you're erasing the hard drive of everything, even to the point of repartitioning if you need to, and then reinstalling the software completely fresh on that. Doing it at home, obviously Command R will put you in recovery mode, and you can go from there. And you can use disk utility to erase the drive and then do the reinstall. You will need to make sure you have an internet connection at that time, because it's re-downloading the software back on fresh again. Or if you have a bootable copy of this operating system, you can boot up from that and do the same steps. Or visit your local Apple store. Make an appointment for the Genius Bar. They can go in and reinstall that operating system clean for you. If you have a solid state drive in your computer, you are probably looking at about 15-20 minutes tops to install 1013 or High Sierra fresh. If you have a traditional drive in there, expect to spend between 45 minutes and an hour while it's happening. So, next on the list, emojis. I don't think productivity is a good word to use with emojis. I am sure they are fun. There are 70 new ones in High Sierra, ranging from food, professions, clothing, mythical creatures, plus other options. I was quite surprised to see that the T-Rex finally made it. I was happy with that. I was quite surprised to see that there are mermaids and mermen as emojis as well. So if it makes you happy, all right, maybe your work will go by a little faster. A couple other things that personally were a neat thing, they added a few flags. There are a number of flags across the world that are there. My brother-in-law is extremely pleased that the flag of Scotland is now included, because that's where he was born. And now he can throw that in and tease the Irish side of his family, which is my side, with the Scottish flag. And he likes to do that a lot, because I still can't understand a damn thing he says. Next, security. If security is important to you, and it should be to everybody, then you would want to install macOS High Sierra. There's a ton of security fixes in this update, and we'll continue to add security patches. Matter of fact, we had a security patch come out about 2 weeks ago. There was an issue in High Sierra where if somebody went to log in as root and did not put a password in and hit the enter bar, they had full control of the computer. That was a huge hiccup for Apple. That's the first time in probably almost 2 decades we've had a hiccup that big. They found that issue. They put a patch out, I think within 24 hours of it hitting the news. Supposedly it was something that someone found 2 weeks prior, contacted Apple, and Apple thanked them and went to work on making a patch for it and then pushed it out. So if you are on High Sierra, please run all your current updates. This security update was considered critical, and it should bug you to install it if you already haven't. Yes?
If you run the most recent app, update on that, will that get over the previous one?
Yes. Yeah, it'll definitely do that. There's also something about Apple checking your Mac firmware on a weekly basis to see if there's any security issues. I don't know enough about this to go in depth with it, but supposedly you won't know this is going on, and they are only looking at your firmware, nothing else on your system. Because again, Apple is very privacy oriented, is probably the best way to put it. If there is a problem, a message will pop up prompting you to run an update. If you don't get that message and your computer is online and you haven't seen it, then that means there is not an update available for your machine. So hopefully you won't see it, or if you do, you'll just update that and move along. The update that fixed that root user issue is referred to as Security Update 2017-001. So you can do a search through Apple support if you're not sure that it's actually been run on your machine, and you can try to run it and it'll tell you if it's on or not. So hopefully you've already run it. So external GPU and virtual reality support is, as a number of people say, the wave of the future. Using the external GPU allows people to use a slightly older machine, not a real old machine, but a slightly older machine to get better performance. If you are trying to do augmented reality, virtual reality, or if you just need that extra oomph for maybe doing video work that you might be trying to get finished.
That's not designed just for older machines.
No, it's designed for the new machines as well, because a lot of the machines, this gives you a big boost in performance if you go that route. Not all Macs will support virtual reality. I would recommend that anything older than 2012 is definitely not designed for that. The very latest machines, they put that into thought when they were creating them. So depending on what type of augmented reality or virtual reality you're looking to do, there is a possibility that you may need that extra support with an external GPU. The virtual reality arrives in High Sierra for the iMac with the 5K displays and the iMac Pro this month. Speaking of, the iMac Pro is available for purchase on my birthday. Yay! Nobody bought me one. So, because my wife looked and said, they want how much for this computer? You just want it because it's in space gray. And I said, yes. I still didn't get it. So,
No, you might get some contact paper for space gray.
well, exactly. Yeah, space gray contact paper on the iMac might go a long, long way. Yeah. So, Apple is saying that external GPU support will be available this spring. So before running out trying to buy all the stuff to get it set up today, just be patient. It's coming. Some of them are set up to use those right now, but they're not, the VR support is not quite there yet. Next, if you have an iPhone or an iPad and you're on iOS 11, going to High Sierra is a really smart thing, I think, for most people. There are new photo and video formats that are available to use. There is also space saving with photos and videos. However, the trade-off on that space saving is, while quality is still really good, it's not as good as the original picture you took. So if you want to have all that high-res features in there, then you might not want to turn on some of those features. So that again that's a personal preference, I think, for most people. There are a lot of people that I help that have 4,000 pictures on their phone, and their phone is full. but they're still running iOS 10. If they run iOS 11, if they upgrade to that, you can turn it on and suddenly you can free up space because it optimizes those pictures, which does reduce the quality value. But a lot of it is how many pictures of puppies and kittens do you really need on your phone? And that's what a lot of these people have. They've got, you know, this is what I had for dinner last night because I put it on Instagram or Snapchat. People that are more concerned about the quality of their photos, this probably wouldn't be a great thing to have turned on. But if you have a lower capacity phone, this suddenly gives you more savings. So that's something that you can do as well. Also, a nice feature is the copy-paste support. If you copy something on your iPad, you can paste it in the computer if you're on High Sierra, which is sort of a cool feature. Instead of doing all right, I need to go back and find where I was at so I can copy that again. The copy and paste between the devices is sort of neat. Apple file system. The APFS changes the old Mac Extended Journaled. It shows its colors if you're running an SSD on your computer. It really does. You thought your SSD was fast before, it really runs even faster now. So it has built-in encryption, it's got crash safe protection. If you are a person that is always doing a get info to check on your file sizes, it comes up a whole lot quicker, a whole lot faster. And then if you are copying files, it will copy files faster than what you were used to as well. I'm told that Spotlight is supposed to work faster, but I have not personally tested that to see how it is. They say that the searches in Spotlight will be peppier than that. I wouldn't say that they're mind-numbingly fast, but they are faster than what they were. Yes?
Or, the way that my file system is set up now, when I go to the Apple file system, will it be transparent as far as I'm concerned?
Yeah.
The way they're organized?
Yeah. So the new, if you upgrade, you're on 10.12, and you upgrade into that, it changes the file system for you during the installation progress, during installation. And at that point in time, you will, for most people, they don't see a difference. They're like, okay, wow, this system seems faster.
Well, what about my external hard drives?
So your external hard drive will not be changed. That'll still be on the same that you have. The ability to read that external supposedly is supposed to be a little quicker, but that again depends on the type of drive it is. If it's a solid state drive, yeah, it should read faster. If it's a traditional spinning drive, you might see some performance improvement, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
I would not expect it.
Okay.
Note also that the install will not change your drive if it is not solid state.
Right.
You will not convert the drives
Yeah.
unless they are solid state.
Right.
You can force a conversion afterwards, but you shouldn't.
Right. So a number of people will, during clean installs, they will choose to make it the APFS instead of the extended journaled on a traditional spinning drive. Jack's advice I would heed. I have seen a number of people that have done it and it runs fine, but I'm going to default to Jack's advice on this one and probably
Let's put it this
Jim's.
way, Apple is afraid to do it. You should be too.
Right.
The
Another,
other comment is, you said it runs fine. I will say it runs.
yeah, okay,
And I've installed every version of High Sierra that's through 10.13.3.
okay.
And I only did it once onto a hard drive, and that was enough.
Okay. I will also recommend if you have a Mac that has a Fusion drive in it, don't. the Fusion drives and the Mac Minis and the iMacs, there are issues that Apple is working on and is aware of with upgrading to High Sierra and things not running like they're supposed to. To go back to Sierra, you have to actually run a terminal command to allow you to repartition the drive back to that. And Fusion drives are their own special breed of animals that if you do have a Fusion drive on your system, I would recommend you do not upgrade to High Sierra until Apple says, hey, this will work on Fusion drives.
Talking about all Fusion drives or just the old version?
All Fusion drives. If it's a Fusion drive from Apple, that's what it would be, I would not recommend jumping to High Sierra yet. Okay.
By the way,
Yes.
if you do go ahead anyway, it will not redo your drive in APFS because of the issues.
Right.
It will leave your drive alone, but still, probably better off waiting till it just fixes.
Yeah, which hopefully by spring they'll have that fix out. I had heard in November, oh, there'll be something by February. I heard last week, oh, this spring. So they're working on it. They want to make sure it works correctly. So just be patient. Jim?
If you really want to get that machine up to High Sierra right now, the only practical way is if it has a separate SSD that's replaceable, user replaceable, is to upgrade that to at least 128 gig, preferably 500. And make a clean install of High Sierra on that, and then restore from the backup of your old machine.
That would be an option, yeah.
Migrate.
Okay. All right. Boom. Safari. I have found that Safari now runs a whole lot faster than it used to. A lot of people would jump over to Google Chrome because at one point Google Chrome was really fast. It has now become quite bloated. They say future versions will be updated to make it run leaner and cleaner. Same thing with, my understanding is Firefox. But right now, my favorite feature in Safari is if you go to a website that auto-loads videos, say Facebook, Safari doesn't do that. The videos don't play, which is a really neat feature. They also built in ad blockers into Safari that you can enable in preferences. So you can stop the autoplay when you visit a site like Facebook or something like that. It also will prevent ad tracking. How many people have looked up something online and then 3 or 4 websites later, oh look, green beans. Huh, I was looking on green beans over here, but now it sees, here you go, or I was just looking up a recipe. And so now it helps block ads, which doesn't make a lot of people like Yahoo and Google happy because that's how they make their revenue. So that is a great thing. I also think that it's very fast compared to what it used to be. Things just load a lot quicker, and I think you'll be pleased with it. Next, photos. There are a lot of improvements in photos that have been long overdue, and we will have a presentation on this showing for the average user how to do more editing on an easier basis. They're saying that the new version of Photos, you don't need Pixelmator or Photoshop to do a lot of this editing. For the average user, I would say that is true. For a lot of the users in our group, probably not true. But the nice thing is, if you do edit in a third-party app, now the changes can be saved right back into your photo library instead of all right, let me save it here, and now I got to drag a copy of it over to there. So that's a neat feature. There's a new sidebar in the library to give you faster access to what you're trying to do, as well as some new drag and drop functionality. They also say that you can edit live photos using the new loop, bounce, or long exposure features that Apple added in iOS 11. So now if you want to trim, mute, or pick a key photo in your live photos, you can do that. Oops, sorry. And they have now added a feature in Photos called Memories, which features things like pets, babies, outdoor activities, weddings, concerts. And when you teach photos who the people are by using face recognition, iCloud Photo Library will allow it to sync across all your devices, remembering that as well. And then one of the coolest features, personally for me, is Notes. I like using Notes. It's great for just get something down. My favorite use for Notes is a grocery list. So yeah, so the neat thing I found with Notes is I can share with my wife the grocery list. So on my phone or iPad, I've got groceries. It has a little symbol showing that I'm sharing it with her. So she can add something in or delete something that's on the list. One of the coolest things that the new version of Notes offers is the ability to pin a note. So if I'm looking at my notes and I'm making changes to my notes, my grocery list drops down the list. It'll drop down 5 or 6. Okay, because I've been in the other notes. Now with pins, you can pin a note and it keeps that note up at the top of the list. And when you're done with that, you can unpin the note and it'll throw it further down where it used to be. I think this is a very small but a very awesome feature, because instead of scrolling through 100 notes, now the ones that I want to have it right at the top of the list will always be at the top of my list. One of the other features is the ability to add tables to notes. It's like a spreadsheet, but it's not a spreadsheet, because it doesn't do calculations. But if you need to just have that there so you can look at it quickly, it's a really neat feature. It offers better organization for some of your information. So, and then last but not least, in iOS 11, you were given the ability to scan a document with the Notes app. And now, if you're in High Sierra, you can see that scanned document. So, I think the features with Notes will probably be a mini presentation at a future meeting, because I can't see it taking more than 10 minutes to show off those features, but we definitely will. Yes?
Yeah, in regards to scanned documents, if you've got an iPad and you have a scan app on it, would you be able to then transfer that onto?
I don't think so. I haven't tried that. That would be a good feature if you could, but I'm not sure if it would work between the apps. So if you are running iOS 11, why don't you try it and see if you can move it over there, and then let us know. Okay,
Was LockNote in the previous version, or is that?
that was in the previous version. Yeah, the ability to lock a note to secure it. That's a great one too, because if you lock it, you got to have a password to get into it. So there are a bunch of other features in there as well. One of the cool features that I found was in iCloud. If you have family sharing enabled, you can share your iCloud space with other people that are in there. So in my case, I have a 200 gig a month plan for iCloud. I gave my daughter 30 gigs for backing up her phone, and I gave my wife 20 gigs because she really doesn't have anything on it. Because that 5 gigs a month that you get for free can go away quickly. But if you have family sharing on, this is a great way to be able to have that stuff accessible and also share some of your space instead of everybody buying additional space. Since Siri was added to the Mac last year, you now get some new features like playing Apple Music that the assistant, or Siri, thinks that you will like. You also get a new Siri voice, which they say sounds more natural, less robotic, and that came with iOS 11. And Spotlight now pulls off some of the old iOS tricks, like checking your flight time, gate delays, and maps of where your flights are. I used this when my son came home last month, and all I did was just type in the flight number. I didn't type in Southwest. I just typed in flight, up, and it pulled it right up, and it said, yep, he's in Chicago. He'll be leaving at this gate in 10 minutes, which was pretty awesome. And then, just a little history lesson, because while Apple likes to say they're moving forward, but they do respect the past, your operating systems, if you are on 10.7 or 10.8, why? Honestly, you should be at least up to 10.10, because if you have a new phone, iTunes doesn't work in those older systems. The newest version of iTunes, 12.7, wants you to be at least on 10.10. So if you are on an older system, upgrade. Do yourself a favor, especially if you are expecting or planning to get a new phone or iPad during this holiday season. Okay, Calvin, this is for you. Who shouldn't upgrade? Is your Mac vintage? Vintage means more than 5 years from date of purchase. Right now, a vintage Mac, if you have a MacBook Pro like my 13-inch here, and it is a 2011 or older model, it is vintage. If it's more than 7 years old, it's obsolete. That's our next question or statement. You can run this, yes, but this falls back on I don't recommend it. Yes, you can do it, but it's not recommended. If it's obsolete, you really it's time to move forward. I've convinced somebody else in this room of that already, and I'm quite happy that she accepted to upgrade. I'm just looking around the room. Somebody told me to gaze across the room as I'm speaking. Just because you're there.
He was admiring your hat.
Yes.
She didn't do turn a chilling stand.
No, not at all.
Ooh. Yes. If you do have an older Mac, seriously consider at least putting a solid-state drive in it if you want to run High Sierra. Again, 4 gigs of RAM, minimum. The 2 gigs that Apple says, just don't. Just don't. Go at least 4. And then when you get frustrated that the beach ball is bothering you with 4 gigs of RAM, you can either learn to quit out of the other 5 apps and the 10 tabs that you have open, or you can buy more memory. And the last one is your Mac hanging on by a thread. So, if your Mac is hanging on by a thread, yeah. So, if it is, it's time for a new computer. You don't have to buy brand new. You can buy one a couple years old, but get out of that older one and get into something new. So,
How do you feel, about like refurbished Macs?
from
From, I don't know, does Apple sell refurbished?
Apple does sell refurbished computers online, and I highly recommend them because, yeah, so the reason I recommend them is they do come with the full 1-year warranty. You can add Apple Care Plus. It used to be just Apple Care, now it's Apple Care Plus. Apple Care Plus on a computer is truly a no-brainer because I can't tell you how many times a day I have somebody bring in their computer and their screen's broken. And on a 13-inch computer, replacing the display assembly because the screen's broken is $475. Okay? That's whether your computer is a 2012 like this, or it is a 2017 MacBook Air. It is $475. If you have a Retina screen, it's $575. If you have a 15-inch, it is $680. That's a lot of money. Apple Care Plus, your screen gets broken, $99. And you get 2 cases of accidental damage. So if you have the Apple Care Plus to extend that warranty to 3 years on the computer, if something happens to that screen, it's now a very economical repair versus, for like a MacBook Air, half the cost of the computer. It's a good thing. They offer that on iMacs now as well. The brand new iMac Pro that was just announced, you can get Apple Care Plus. It's the same price that Apple Care has been on the iMacs for the last 10 years. The 5K one, or even the new iMac Pro, it's $169. It's
Usually it's cheaper than the Apple Care Plus on the iPhone.
yes, yes, indeed. So a refurbished product through Apple, yeah, because somebody bought it, returned it within 14 days because it was too big, it was too small, I don't need a portable, I need a desktop, I don't need a desktop, I need a portable. Whatever the reason, it was brought back. If there is any cosmetic damage that happened to it, it's repaired. It has gone through by more people than buying a brand new one in the store. It has been erased, it has been reloaded, and it's ready to go. You also will save a few $100s off the cost of the computer depending on which model it is. So yeah, I highly recommend refurbished products through Apple. There are some other companies that do refurbished products. I would recommend that you look into them deeply before making a rash decision, because some of them are no more than, this is someone's old computer that's hanging on by a thread, versus this is a machine that's been checked out and verified. So if you are interested in that, do that. On the Apple website, it's at the bottom of the apple.com page. It says refurbished and reconditioned items. And if you click on it, that page gets updated every day at 8:30, I have found. And if you see something you really like, buy it. Because if you go back after lunch, I have found that it's gone. So if you are in the market for something and you want to go that route, look into it, take advantage of it.
I've bought numerous computers and monitors that way. I had one monitor fail on me within, I think, 15 or 20 days. And I called them up and they sent me another one in a box to return it in, no charge.
Yeah, so it's a good way to go.
And that monitor, the one I still have, and I think it's now in 10 years.
Okay. Okay,